In this segment, I'm going to show the difference in application techniques between using logjam, chinking, and Chinker's edge. There's slight differences in the way that they tool out, and so I'm just showing some of the differences you may note. I've found over the years that people that are experienced, Chinkers in particular, with using one product, sometimes are resistant to trying to change to something else. But the Chinker's edge, I have found, really does tool easier if you give it a little bit of a chance and get used to it. But they're both good products and they perform well, so it boils down to personal preference to a large degree. I'm going to start off with logjam, and I'm going to do one of these smaller lines. As you see, this wall has been previously prepped. It's got a good coat of stain on it, so it's ready for the sealant work. And I'll start off with this line using the logjam, and I'm just going to do the application real quickly with a standard quart tube. So the first part of this process is actually applying it, trying to get it in there as smoothly as we can. And I'm just going to do that much of the wall for right now. Typically with the logjam, I usually use foam brushes, these little foam brushes for doing the tooling, and a little spray mister bottle, and typically I just use straight water. Some people like a combination of some denatured alcohol and water. Again, that comes down to a personal preference. Just light misting with some water, and then using this foam brush to be able to tool the material out. It's very quick, light strokes, barely touching the surface. You'll find that the logjam is a fairly soft product when it's first applied like this, and some people find it's kind of sticky if they don't use the right technique. They get a lot of it that sticks to their brush, can make somewhat of a mess. So practice makes perfect, and a lot of it's just technique, getting the right feel down for the material, for being able to tool them out, and trying to get it to look smooth. So we have two goals when we're applying chinking. One is to make it look reasonably good, have a nice clean line, relatively clean edges, and that's primarily just for looks. What's critically important is we make sure that we apply enough so that the final depth after it's tooled out is at least 1/4 inch, and ideally around 3/8, but no more than 1/2. And that we've got it pushed back tight onto the wood so that we've got good contact and it gets a good bite on the log above and below with the edges sealed. Those are the critical aspects. There almost always will be a little bit of residue that gets down onto the wood. Person can use a rag. I personally have gone to using a nice little sponge to just real quickly go over and clean those edges so that we've got a relatively nice looking finished product. And that's logjam. I'm going to be doing the application of the Chinker's edge with the chinking pump, the Snorkeler, where it pulls the material directly out of a 5-gallon bucket. This will just show differences in way of doing the initial application. If you're doing wide lines or a lot of material, a lot of lineal footage, frequently it's a lot more economical and you can do a lot more work if you use the pump. So, but the application method is very, very similar in the terms of making sure we get enough material put in there so that our final depth, once it's tooled out, is going to be at least 1/4 inch. And ideally, I like to shoot for about 3/8 inch. You can see it's pretty easy application. Again, this is one of those things that does take a little bit of practice to be able to put it in there smoothly. The main difference in tooling with the Chinker's edge, and I actually really prefer Chinker's edge, having used both of them and developed techniques, I find I can tool it a lot quicker. But the difference is it is a thicker material. You have to use a little bit more pressure. So sometimes the foam brushes that are really, really soft aren't the best tool in order to at least initially do the work there. So going to a trowel system sometimes makes this a lot better. One of the real advantages, you can use a lot less water, which creates less problems with cleanup and so forth. So just a super light little mist, and then a relatively light touch again with the trowel. we're going to come through, do our tooling. And if you use just a tiny bit of water, the trowel will glide real nicely over the edge. We can get the top and the bottom edges sealed real well. People will find that are used to log jam, and especially if they try going specifically with a foam brush initially, that it takes quite a bit more pressure. You can do it with it, but you have to modify your technique a little bit more to where you're pushing a little bit more firmly. I prefer to at least initially do the tooling with a trowel, and then if I need to smooth it out a little bit more, I can come back over and just real lightly go over the edges and smooth it out with the foam brush, and then finish it out just with a real quick clean of the edges. Again, these work really well. Some people use rags, but just making sure that you don't have any residual that is dripping down onto the logs.